Welcome back to this week's episode of Unlocked. I have Matthew West on, and yes, we're already laughing.
Yes.
We're laughing actually at me and with me because I just showed him my Masked Singer video.
I gotta say, like, I was a big fan before, but after seeing this clip, I don't know how I missed this on primetime television, but
it was
you on the Masked Singer.
Yeah.
That might be the best thing I've seen all year.
It was definitely an interesting thing. I mean, I have no musical ability, so sitting beside someone who's like just a musical genius, and then you have me is...
Don't sell yourself short. That was impressive.
Impressive.
I thought it was like they had you dressed up as a
Afghan hound,
which I didn't even know.
I didn't even know was a thing.
But that was amazing. And you're singing in the jungle.
Yeah, and the craziest part of the whole thing is when you're on these, once they pick like what your character is going to be, and you're on these calls leading up to it and emails, they will never refer to you by your name.
You are the
They'll
Afghan
be like,
hound.
"Good morning, Afghan hound." And it is hilarious.
To try to get you into some sort of character.
Well, just because they don't ever want it to come out
That
who
it's
is
you.
underneath the mask. So they just refer to you as your character.
So did you practice the song a bunch before you went out and sang it?
So the funny part is they put me with like a musical coach, and I'm like, guys, this is wasted. Like, that's like, a coach is for someone who has some ability and just needs to like hone it in.
Did you ever sing as a kid growing up?
No.
Okay, so music was never...
No, it was never my thing.
So why not just go on national television and sing in front of everybody?
It's fine.
You're
But
fearless.
I think that's part of it, is like trying to live in the moment.
I love it.
Embarrass yourself, laugh at yourself.
Great.
Don't take life too serious.
That's a great lesson. I want my daughters to live like that, with that kind of fearless. That reminds me of, and she'll be mad at me when I say this, but when my wife sings karaoke,
Stop.
like, she approaches the mic with the same fearlessness of that Afghan hound.
And does she have a voice?
Well, she's courageous. Let's just say she puts it out there, because her go-to song is always Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," which is hard to sing.
That's like, no one should ever really attempt that.
Oh, but she does, and she just goes, and it's amazing, and she almost hits the note. That's the best part. Is like, it's not quite,
but it's almost there.
I'm sorry if my wife's listening to this.
It's okay. It's okay. You said it with so much love. And you're like, all right, I'm not going to say she's bad. I'm going to turn it to a positive.
Well, and when someone puts themselves out there, it like pulls everybody else along.
Yes.
And makes everybody else more comfortable.
Without a doubt.
I like to think that the Afghan hound, you dressed as an Afghan hound, you just made everybody else go, okay, I can do this.
Thank you.
You just filled everybody else with courage.
And of course, I'm the one that's got my phone not on. Actually, I do, but it's my mother calling.
Do you need to take it?
No, it's okay. Will you just text her? Thank you. You know when you put it on silent, but you have like all your favorite contacts.
Hey, I guarantee you my parents are calling me on my phone too.
See,
right now,
but that's the thing though. It's, you look at it and have you seen that thing on social media to where it's like when a call from your mother comes through and people post it and they're like, I hope this name never like doesn't pop up on my phone.
Ooh.
You know?
So maybe you should answer that call.
Hey, it's okay. Erin, I know she tried to FaceTime me. It was something
You just
different.
got all serious and emotional. You know, so funny story about my dad. He has my songs as his ringtone.
Stop. Now, how old's your dad?
He's 75.
Okay.
But like literally every time I'm with him, if his phone rings, it's my song. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, "Dad." And I didn't even know you could still have people's songs. I feel like that was a thing you used to do.
Yeah, that you used to when it was cool to buy it for like 99
like on a flip
cents.
phone kind of thing. So I don't know how he's done it, but he's technologically challenged, right? Obviously.
Yeah, 75.
But somebody put my songs on as his ringtone.
That is the sweetest thing. Oh my gosh.
That's pretty cool.
So when it comes to your music, have you always, like since you were a kid, been like knew music was what you wanted to do?
Well, no, I always wanted to be a baseball player. I grew up a preacher's kid, and like music was always
a preacher's kid.
Yeah.
What? So my mom is the daughter of a Southern Baptist minister.
So she's a PK too.
Yeah.
That's what we call them, PK.
Yeah.
Or if your parents were missionary, you're an MK.
Okay.
Like missionary kid. But yeah. So okay, preacher's kid. So I would have a lot in common then.
Yes.
We'd have a lot of stories to share with
Oh
your
yeah,
mom.
because my mom was like, I feel like she kind of hit like a little rebellious stage. Because, you know, when you're a preacher's kid, it's like, did you ever feel like you were always like you were just being thumped on the head with a Bible?
Well, I always felt like I had to be on. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Because it always felt like all eyes were on me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, that adds so much pressure.
Yes.
It's like you see preachers in today's day and age and the amount of pressure that's on them.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, they're human too.
Right. And
they make mistakes, but society doesn't see it that way.
And that pressure funnels down or trickles down to the whole family, right? So the kids, like I had 2 younger brothers. And so there's just, my parents always did a good job of not putting too much pressure on us, but it was more like just the role and the church itself where, because you're in the front row every Sunday, you got to sit in the front row.
And you can't not come.
Right. And you feel like every eye is watching you. And so I think you kind of, I think that's one of the dangers of growing up as like a preacher's kid is like, I wouldn't change my upbringing for the world, but no matter how blessed you are as a kid, like there's always an upside and a downside.
Well, you also are kind of still in that same situation now with your career.
It's
you
crazy.
Speak about that, like publicly being, I mean, arguably like the largest Christian artist of all time, but you speak about, you know, your music and how, you know, it's inspirational and you're basically preaching through music, but then you also have a home life too.
Well, that's the danger of like when your faith is something that you're living out in a public spotlight, often it can become, the danger is becoming performative, right? Where it's like, you don't want to have these 2 versions of you. You don't want to be one way on stage and in front of people and then another way backstage and off stage and when you're in your home. It's like I think about that a lot with my kids too, because okay, in a weird way they've kind of grown up. I'm not a preacher, but like through music. Yeah, and so they have some of the similar pressures, but I don't ever want them to say, you know, dad was one way on stage, but we saw the real him and you wouldn't want to know that guy. You know what I mean? So that's something that like haunts me in a good way.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that my mom and my dad, they set a good example. Like they were like, they knew the pressure we were under.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I remember just at times growing up as a high schooler, even I was so like angry at the way people in our church would maybe treat our family that there were points where I was like, if this is what being a Christian is like, I don't know if I want it. And my dad, one time he said to me though, he's like, listen, you're going to look for God in other people. And sometimes you're going to see glimpses, but ultimately humans are going to disappoint you and let you down. And you're going to disappoint them and let you down. And so he was always very quick to remind me that like your relationship with God needs to be less about
other people.
Yeah. Trying to see it in other people and more, just keep your eyes on him because people are going to let you down and you're going to let them down. And so I really think like there were some key moments where my mom and my dad spoke truth into my life that kept me from like running away or going off the deep end. Do you know what I mean? Where my heart stayed soft towards like faith.
Well, my mom would always say, you may be the only Bible that someone reads.
Yes. Have you heard that song by Warren Ziders?
Yes.
If I'm the only Bible.
Yes.
And he put that quote in a song.
It is so
good.
Yeah. And but when she said that, it really hit me because it really causes you to question maybe what you do or how you live your life or how you approach people.
Right.
And so now with your music or with your career, was there ever a point in time to where you felt like you maybe weren't living the life that your music was portraying? Yeah,
I mean, I think for me, it's that kind of one of the reasons why I've been talking a lot lately about prayer is like learning. This was kind of hard for me to admit, but I was sort of taking inventory of my own life of going, I think I've gotten better at talking about Jesus than talking to him. And like that like hit me hard because it was like, whoa, I'm spending all this time on stage encouraging other people, but then maybe in my daily life, I'm neglecting the most important conversation I need to have every single day, which is with my creator. Like, am I really living what I'm encouraging other people to live? And I think that's one of the hard parts is almost because your faith is also mixed in with like your mission and job in life. It's like there's a temptation to sort of punch a clock and go, oh yeah, well, I did my good thing for God during my show. for that hour on stage.
Now I'm good.
Yeah, but then I'll feel this tap on my shoulder as if God's saying like, hey, there's 23 more hours of your day. It's like your faith isn't something, it's not a job that you like punch in and punch out. Like it's okay, how am I going to treat the people when I'm off stage? How am I going to act? What kind of dad am I going to be? What kind of husband am I going to be? And that's been a big part from my life, just from day one of like having kids like changes a lot of things for you too, because it's like I refuse to build a successful music career but be a failure as a dad. Like that gets me every single day.
I feel like that would be like my biggest fear, like you said, of your kids saying, yeah, he was super successful and he changed so many people's lives, but when it comes to my life, he wasn't the same.
Yeah, I didn't have much of a relationship with him or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's to me is like the definition of a failure in life, is if you've built some successful thing and then that success is not replicated inside your own home.
All right, guys, you know I have been on my health and wellness journey with my GLP-1s, and I am obsessed. I feel great. I look great. I mean, could life be any better? But when it comes to taking GLP-1s, I have to make sure I am eating all the proper nutrients. And this time of year, I'm trying to stay consistent with just eating well. But between work, workouts, commuting, cooking just isn't happening. And that's why I have turned to Tempo. Tempo gives me fresh, balanced meals ready in 2 minutes so I could eat the way that I want without losing time. Tempo delivers fresh, chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals right to your door. Each meal is perfectly portioned for lunch or dinner and ready in just 2 minutes. That means real food, real fast, without the sad desk lunch or drive-through regret. No matter what your goals, there's a Tempo meal for you. Protein-packed meals with up to 30 grams of protein, calorie-conscious, even GLP-1 balanced meals. For a limited time, Tempo is offering my listeners 60% off your first box. Go to tempomeals.com/unlocked. That's tempomeals.com/unlocked for 60% off your first box. tempomeals.com/unlocked. Rules and restrictions may apply. This episode of Unlocked is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it. So your dollar goes a long way. Visit progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. What would you say for people listening that don't really know where to start with God?
Man, that's a great question. I think the starting point is the realization that he's not as far away, that the journey to him is not as far as you might think, right? And so when I read my Bible, the thing that blows me away, among many things, is really the entire message of the Bible is the story of pursuit. And it's God's pursuit of us. And I think a lot of times we get twisted
that it's our pursuit.
We think we got to work our way to him. And my whole life, what's crazy is my whole life, I've had this work ethic ever since I was a kid. I think you have it too. Like you have to have a work ethic to go on The Masked Singer. But to do all the things that you do, like you get after it. Like you're motivated, right? Whether it's personal family endeavors or your work. I mean, you're not lazy. I've always been the same way and that has served me well. Like when I was in high school sports, I wasn't the most talented and I knew it, but I was going to outwork the other guys.
And that makes a difference.
That makes a difference. And then in music, that skill set has served me well too, where I looked around and I was like, I am not the most talented person on Music Row, but I'm going to outwork. But what happens is that can spill over into your spiritual life too. And think like, I got to work my way to be a good Christian. And so for somebody who's just getting started, I think the first thing I would say is like, God loves you so much that he came all the way for you. And the distance back to him is not a million miles. It's literally one breath, one prayer, one step.
I think too, where we're at in the world is people are taught to feel so much shame. And when you look at God and shame, you don't think those two things go together.
Right.
And even I know for me, something that I struggled with so much was like, all right, well, now I know what the Bible says, right? Like I know basically every sin is equal. You ask God for forgiveness, like you have that forgiveness.
Right.
But it's so hard to accept that when you look at people who have really wronged you, right? Whether it's you see someone who goes out here, whether it's, sexual abuse or, murder, whatever it may be. And you're like, wait, so if they ask God for forgiveness, they're forgiven too?
Yeah. I think the accepting a gift you don't deserve is always hard. And that's what God's grace is. It's a gift we know we don't deserve. And what you're talking about, like when people harm you, like, how hard it is to forgive them.
Yeah.
But it's also, I just think that's been a big struggle in my faith of going like, I don't feel worthy of God's grace. Well, that's the point. The Bible, like in Romans, just lays it all out. What Paul wrote in Romans will just wreck you in the best way about the message of God's grace. When he talks about, he's like, I love the scripture in Romans where Paul is wrestling. He's like, I do the things I don't understand. I do the things I don't want to do. I don't do the things that I know I should do. Like and I was like, if there's ever a sentence in the Bible that like sums up the human condition and how I feel is like, I set out to be perfect. I'm always far from it. I keep doing the things I know I don't want to do. But then it's like all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. That means every single one of us. And all of us need to be made right by God's grace. And then it says, which is a free gift. Yes. Right. So like the playing field, like the ground is leveled. Because we're so
used to having to work so hard for things.
Yes.
Whether work hard for a relationship or someone's acceptance or love. So when something's given, you're like, wait,
that's
the catch?
Not right.
What's the catch? Yeah.
And that's what I love is like, you think about like, I'm sure you've signed a few contracts in your day, and I'm sure there's been some fine print that you or your attorney like wish you would have read or had to make sure you checked. And I feel like sometimes when it comes to matters of faith, like we're tempted to go like, what's the catch? Where's the fine print here? But like, not to sound cheesy, but the fine print is words in red that are like Jesus saying, no, there is no catch. It's that you are deeply and endlessly loved, and there's nothing you could ever do that would remove you too far from grace. But the enemy loves to use shame in our lives.
Without a doubt.
I mean, I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday, but you better believe I can remember the very mistake that I made in high school. Like, I mean, literally my mind, I can keep, like the scripture tells us that love keeps no record of wrong, but like we can keep quite a list of all the things we've ever done wrong. And I think that's how the enemy tries to work in our lives, to let shame overshadow the power of God's grace. Yeah. I know that's what he's tried to do in my life too. So
when you say those things, what I think of is, what's also so hard for people is when it seems like everything in your life is going wrong. And you still choose to believe that that's part of God's plan. I think what's going on in the world today, where I've seen it, is, Savannah Guthrie, what she's going through with her mother, still on day 9, 10, doesn't know where she's at.
It's crazy.
But she's still choosing to believe in God. I feel like it's so easy for people on the outside to look at that and be like, oh, she's so full of it. How can you believe that this is part of a greater plan? And you've had things in your life that have kind of gone along with that message. Well, how do you still stand firm in something when everything's going wrong? Well,
first I would say, like, to be totally honest with you, and I think what you're getting at is like what's even happening in our world right now, and what's happened, I feel like over the last 5 years, like just, I mean, anybody, no matter how much faith you have in your life, like the foundation has been tested. Right. Like I think there's been so many moments even recently where I'm just like, what is happening right now? Like, and asking like, God, where are you? Like, so I think that's a very real part of like our journeys in life and journey of faith is like, we may not always understand it. All I know is where would I be without faith? Like if I've had moments, like I remember, I had throat surgery and it rocked my world. Like I was getting ready to see my music career take off. Yeah. And just like hitting moments where it's like, okay, the dream that I've worked for may not come true after all. Like what am I really going to stand on here? And really finding it wasn't about me finding the faith to make my way through that. I felt like God found me and restored my faith. And honestly, the craziest thing about our lives is like, it's those trials we wish we didn't have that wind up like
making you who you are.
Yes.
That's what I say. And
I wouldn't want to go through it again, but I wouldn't be who I am without that.
Honestly, though, it's like one of my favorite verses is Romans 8:28. Through every hardship and adversity you go through, basically, I'll turn around and use it to your advantage.
That's right.
And it's so hard to see it in the moment. But I look through traumatic experiences as a kid that I went through, and I'm like, you know what? If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have had the strength to deal with the past 2.5, 3 years. Yeah. So you know what, God? Like, I see you, but it took 10 years.
Yeah, you might not see it in the moment.
Purpose.
Yeah. That's awesome to see the purpose.
Waiting. It's the waiting to where it's hard to believe that everything happens for a reason. And then after the fact. But I also think it takes a lot of strength and courage to be able to look at the hard things and say, but you know what, God, I know you're going to turn around and use this. I don't know how, but I know you will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know this next statement is going to cause you to be like, whoa, wait, what? Who is this girl? But these days, I am all about quality over quantity. I know, I just said it. Quality over quantity, especially in my closet. If it's not well made and versatile, it's just not worth it to me at this point. That's honestly why I love Quince. The fabrics feel elevated, the cuts are thoughtful, and the pricing actually makes sense. Quince makes high quality wardrobe staples using premium fabrics like 100% European linen, 100% silk, and organic cotton poplin. Lightweight cotton cashmere sweaters, perfect for the changing seasons, and you can't miss the seasonal colors and prints for spring. Versatile, well-made pieces that make getting dressed simple. I love the Quince cotton cashmere sweater. It has truly become my go-to. It's light enough for layering, but still feels luxe, and it didn't cost what I thought quality cashmere would. I also am obsessed for the spring and summer with the Quince linen pants. They don't wrinkle like every other linen that I've owned. They truly like put together without, trying too hard. So stop waiting to build a wardrobe you actually want. You don't need a closet full of options. You need pieces that actually work. Right now, go to quince.com/unlocked for free shipping and 365-day returns. That's a full year to wear it and love it. And I promise you, you will. Now available in Canada too. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last. Go to Quince, QUINCE.com/unlocked for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/unlocked. For anyone that has walked into my home, it literally looks like Lola blankets just threw up everywhere. And I am obsessed with not only their blankets, but their pillows as well. My couch looks so comfy and cozy and warm. And honestly, it just brings my energy like very zen, okay? Lola is the world's #1 blanket. Crafted with ultra soft luxury faux fur and a signature 4-way stretch, the kind of quality that instantly feels gift worthy. Since I already have like a gazillion Lola blankets, I am constantly looking at their website to see the newest colors and styles. And now I just buy them for all the people that I love because I know how these blankets make me feel. And I want to gift that feeling to everyone that I know. The colors and textures make it an easy, foolproof gift. It fits effortlessly into any home aesthetic. Lola has over 20,000 5-star reviews, thousands of people gifting it, loving it, and talking about it. I mean, let's face it, there's a reason it's called the world's #1 blanket. It's the gift people don't stop raving about. For a limited time, our listeners can get 40% off select Lola Blankets products with code UNLOCKED at checkout. Just head to lolablankets.com and use code UNLOCKED. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and let them know that we sent you. Wrap yourself in luxury with Lola Blankets.
Well, and haven't you been inspired when you see somebody who's going through the fight of their life and they show or they exhibit like just a strength or a faith or, I've seen people who are battling cancer and they're checking in on how their family's doing.
Yes.
And it's like, where does that come from? And it's like these trials and things that we go through in our life, they give us an opportunity to let God shine through us, like through the broken parts of our lives. And like you said, I mean, I love that scripture in Romans. Again, Romans, right? The promise that God can work all things for the good of those. And it says, who love him and are called according to his purpose. And so I got to go, okay, do I qualify for that scripture? Okay, do I love him? Yes, I love him.
Yeah.
Do I believe I'm called according to his purpose? Yeah, I believe he's got a calling on my life. Well, that means that even this is something he can use.
Yes.
And I've been inspired by people who've gone through the fire and the faith they've exhibited through that. And so I want to be that way too when I go through the fire. But it's not without questions.
Yes.
It's not without fear or doubt.
I like to say it's okay to question God. There's a difference between questioning and doubting his existence. Two totally different things. So I can question, why is this happening? But to doubt that he's even there, that's a different message.
Well, like I started this year, every year I go, okay, I'm going to read the whole Bible. And I started reading, like, do you do is it the YouVersion Bible plan?
Yes.
Like they have all these different plans, but there's this girl, Tara Lee Cobble, who does, what's it called? She has this plan where she kind of walks you through the Bible. I had her on my podcast. Now I can't remember the name of her. Tara Lee Cobble is her name. But
well, it's crazy, the whole reading of the Bible. And it's so crazy that you mentioned that. I was just in DC yesterday. And there is a guy who's very politically involved, and he has a group to where he and like members of Congress, they rented out the Bible Museum
cool.
in DC, and they're going to have like
that
the scrolls, the everything that is there in the next month, and they're going to read the entire Bible within that time.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Have you been to the museum yet?
I have not.
It's so cool.
I know. I want to go.
During the pandemic, I filmed a documentary for them inside the museum, but it was all closed. It felt like Night at the Museum.
Wow.
But it was crazy. But so I started this year reading through the Bible, and the first book, it's in chronological order, but they had I'm reading through Job in January and February. And like,
and that is a story. That's a hard.
But that's a guy who was like riddled with trials and obstacles and illnesses and tragedy and grief and questions why. And it talks a lot about he's asking God, he's trying to figure out what did I do to bring this upon myself? And then God steps in and reminds him he's in control, who he is. But that's a hard book to start the year.
It is very, I'm like, maybe start off with Genesis.
I was like, Lord, are you trying to tell me, am I about to go into through something? You know what I mean? But whatever it is, I know I'm never going to be fully ready, but I also know that God's going to bring me through it. And I know he's going to grow me in the process. You know what I mean?
How important do you think it is as a father, to raise your children in a household that is structured around faith?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. I think it's when we talk about like a foundation being tested, like you have to, like, there's no other way I know to raise my kids other than to know that, hey, this world is going to come after you, but there is one who fights for you. And there is no more important. I mean, I remember my parents saying to me, like, I don't care. They're like, we don't care what you do for a job. I mean, obviously we care about all of your dreams and passions, but our most important desire for you is to see you growing up with a personal relationship with your creator, and to know that he is your best friend, and to know that he has a plan for your life. And I remember that, like that's my parents' like greatest desire for me as a kid. I'm like, you want me to be successful and all these other things. But now that I'm a dad, and it's like my oldest daughter just turned 20, and my youngest daughter is just turning 17. And it's like, guess what my desire for them is? Like, I find myself saying the exact same thing to them. I don't care. Like, you want to do music for a living? I don't care. Yeah. All I know is that God has a plan for you. And my biggest prayer for each of my daughters is that they'll step into the center of God's will for their life, because I've tried my own way in my own life, and I've come back time and time again to rediscover that there is no better place for me than in the center of God's will. And so that's a parent's heart. My wife and I, that's our heart for our daughters.
Well, I feel like that we live in a time right now to where, unfortunately, there is a lot of selfishness in our society. And I have noticed, like, you know, the closer I get to wanting kids, I see these parents who unfortunately are very consumed with their own lives, that they're not starting on that structure.
Yeah.
And what would you say, like, when you had your kids, what were the first steps to like introducing your kids to a life of Christ?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like everything else in life, and you know this, it's like we could say one thing. Maybe this is a theme of what we're talking about today too, of like, you know, we can say one thing, but our actions speak way louder. And so like leading by example in our home of like, do our kids see in us, like, okay, if we're trying to teach our kids to be others minded and generous, like, are we living a generous life? Like not just saying it, but are we showing them what it looks like to be compassionate towards others? And to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think exhibiting it, and I honestly, I look at the way my wife lives her life, and it's like, man, like I'm the one on stage in front of people, but like I'm inspired by how much the way she lives her life lines up with what she says she believes.
I mean, I see the quote all the time: the most important decision you will ever make is who you choose to spend the rest of your life with. And how that can like make or break it.
Oh man. And I hit the jackpot with my wife. Like she's unbelievable. And she rose above a really difficult childhood. And in fact, I remember selfishly thinking, like, my parents stayed married and I had a great, you know, childhood and upbringing. And I remember thinking, because she came from divorced parents, a really difficult, estranged relationships with her parents. And I thought, like, as we got married, it's like, okay, well, it's going to be up to me to like show her, like, and I'm not proud of the thought that I had, but it was like, I'm going to be able to show her what an intact family looks like. And I couldn't have been more wrong, because it was out of what she didn't have as a child. She has approached parenthood and our marriage with a fierceness and a determination to not to break chains of dysfunction that she grew up in. Like, I'm telling you, and that's a message for anybody listening to this. It's like, it doesn't matter like how you began. Obviously, it's helped shape you, it's affected you. Whatever dysfunction you grew up in doesn't dictate what kind of parent you're going to become. I can't tell you how many people I remember.
I hear people that say like, no, dear God, I don't want kids. I don't want to repeat the cycle. And so therefore they miss out on the greatest gift of life.
That's it.
Because they're afraid of repeating the cycle.
When the reality is that's the power of God in our lives, is that he can use just one to break the chains of generations of dysfunction. And it's like, and I see that in my wife. And so like the way that my kids have been raised by her specifically, and hopefully I've had an impact as well, but like, that's really where it starts. And then the other thing, as a parent, like you were saying, what would you say to parents who are just starting out with kids? It's like, you know, the goal, like everything in life, like I always like, I want to be perfect. I want to be a perfect Christian. Is that possible? No, I fall short every single day. And the same is true as a parent and as a husband and as a spouse, of going, man, I try to be the perfect husband. Is that possible? No, I keep screwing up. As a dad, am I going to knock it out of the park 100% of the time? No, but like, let me be the first one who's like some of the most special moments with my kids have been like when dad blew it, but was humble enough to go knock on my daughter's bedroom door and be like, hey, I apologize for losing my temper. I should have handled that situation different. Or, hey, I apologize for the way you just heard me talk to your mom. I didn't handle that right. And I want you to know that's not how it should look.
If you have been listening to my podcast, then you know what my saying is, and that is, it is okay to not be okay. I know for me, I have gone through so much trauma in my life, and I was so against therapy at first, and then I tried it, and it was such a game changer for me. It absolutely changed my life. It gave me a new perspective. It helped me to kind of understand my feelings more and why I felt the way that I felt, and for the first time in forever, I felt like I could finally breathe. And trust me, I know finding a therapist is hard enough, but finding one that actually takes your insurance, that's where most online therapy platforms fall short. Many don't work with insurance at all, which means you're stuck paying the full cost out of pocket budget or paying for an expensive monthly subscription. But Rula does things differently. They partner with over 100 insurance plans, making the average copay just $15 per session. That's real therapy from licensed professionals at a price that actually makes sense. With Rula, you can find the right therapist for you. Rula partners with a network of over 15,000 therapists and psychiatrists nationwide, enabling you to find your personalized solution and the right therapist for you based on your needs, preferences, and state requirements. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by insurance. Visit rula.com/unlocked to get started. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Please, please, please support our show and let them know that we sent you. That's rula.com/unlocked. You deserve mental health care that works with you and not against your budget. Visit goodgirlrx.com and use code UNLOCKED15 to get 15% off at checkout. Medical care is provided by licensed physicians. Not all patients qualify. Good Girl RX is a female-focused health and wellness company built around the belief that women deserve better access to care and better conversations about their health. Through our telehealth platform, women connect with licensed medical providers from the comfort of their own home. During your virtual appointment, a doctor reviews your health history and goals, and if clinically appropriate, may discuss prescription treatment options as part of a personalized plan. Those options can include GLP-1 medications like tirzepatide, as well as wellness therapies such as NAD, depending on what your provider determines is right for you. Every treatment plan is individualized, medically guided, and based on your specific needs, not trends or one-size-fits-all solutions. I'm the founder of Good Girl RX, and this is my personal experience. For me, the biggest shift wasn't just physical. It was finally feeling heard, supported, and honestly cared for without shame. Everyone's journey is different, results vary, and not everyone qualifies, but access to real medical guidance can be life-changing. Visit goodgirlrx.com and use code UNLOCKED15 to get 15% off at checkout. Medical care is provided by licensed physicians. Not all patients qualify. That is something that is so important because even in like the household that I grew up in, my father, first off, today he's totally different than he was like growing up. And that's after a lot of therapy and self-reflection. But being able, I personally feel like if your children see you fall apart or lose your cool, or then they also need to see you make it right as well. And it's that first time you hear them say, a parent say to their, your mother or your father, hey, I'm really sorry for doing that. I should have never done that. You're like, oh, wow. Like you remember that moment of the full circle making it right.
It's a display of humility that like is rare to be found, but like it has an impact when you see that happen. And then hopefully it leads them to live that same way.
And when you got married to your wife, was there a time to where, because I know in my own personal life, due to past traumas and other people, that when I'm in relationship with someone, I'm like constantly just waiting for the other shoe to fall, right? And so it's taken some time to get to a place where it's like, okay, your actions have shown me that this is not going to be a repeat of the past. Would you say that you guys went through a phase of that or no?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's crazy is I think again, like her like we decided early on, and obviously it's easier said than done, but we were like, failure's not an option. Like we're not even the word divorce is not going to enter our vocabulary.
In today's day and age, I feel like it's just people get married to then get divorced. It's so easy to say, divorce. There's
a line in a song I never released, but I wrote it down. It's like, the world writes it down in pencil, but we wrote it down in pen. They say when love gets hard, take back your heart and start again. But you and me dare to believe in a love that has no end. The world writes it down in pencil, but we wrote it down in pen. I should release that
you
song.
need to release that. That is especially where we're at in today's day and age. I feel like a song like that, even though I'm not musically inclined at all.
You can sing it with me on The Masked Singer.
Yeah, right? My entire life, I've always looked to music to save my heart and where I was at that time.
Okay, tell me a song that like, okay, because I mean, I know what you and your family have been through. Yeah. Like, has there been a song like, or maybe more than one? What's a song that comes to mind, even when I ask you that question of like, okay, this song helped me in a moment when was it an old hymn or?
I love, Alan Jackson did that gospel.
I thought you were going to say Chattahoochee.
Right? No, right? But he did that gospel album at one time.
Yes.
And it was the most gorgeous produced album. I feel like listening to things like that and songs that have purpose and just like, God, I can't see you. And then you still have faith. I think, but it's like hearing the song you haven't released yet. I immediately think at how many marriages that song could save.
I'm telling you, like, I mean, but there's that fear when you're starting any relationship. It's like, how do you know? Like, and but I just remember, so my wife and I, we dated for 3 months. We met at my record label that I was auditioning for. And right on Music Row, not far from where we're recording this. In fact, I was driving down Music Row. I pointed to like, that's the studio where I met her. And I met her on the day that I was auditioning, and we started dating. We dated 3 months, but 3 months into our not even 3 months into our dating relationship, I suffered a major injury to my arm. I won't show you the scar.
That you thought you were never gonna
I thought I wasn't going to play guitar again. And everything changed, but she was by my side through this like, I was in and out of the hospital, major complications. I couldn't tie my own shoe for several months, and she was there like tying my shoe and helping me. And it was like, I put a ring on her finger so fast. Like, my family was like, what's going on? But when you go through a fire together early, it's like, it sped up our timeline.
Yes.
And then I will say too, like, out of what she experienced as a kid and like knowing what it was like to go back and forth between divorced parents, like the determination that she's had towards our marriage has been something that's been so inspiring to me. Like, she comes at it from this place of like, I'm not going to have my kids experience what I did. Like, she's breaking those chains. So we're going on 23 years of marriage, and she's my best friend, and like, just, it's unbelievable. So when you find that person, I think it's finding that person who has the same fierce determination that you will to say, hey, failure's not an option here. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to be quick to forgive each other, and we're going to keep moving forward together. Like, what is that? What if there was a new revival of that type of determination in our relationships?
Exactly.
Man, that would be
that in marriage, and to teach kids, hey, it's cool to be married. Yeah. It's cool to make wrongs right.
Yeah. Now, obviously, if somebody, there are situations that can only be fixed.
Dissolved.
Yeah, somebody, there needs to be boundaries, right? Like, obviously, if somebody's a victim of abuse, or like the Bible talks about infidelity and things like that, right? So I'm not saying that like you should endure a lifetime of
hurt and trauma
and abuse. Like, that's got to be dealt with as well. But like, when you find, and that's all the more reason why God needs to be at the center. I mean, I'm going to sound like a preacher here, but it's like, because a husband and wife on their own, they don't have the strength to stay together.
Yes.
But like, if you have a firm foundation saying, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, God gives us the strength that we need, gives us the grace for each other that we need on our worst days.
Well, it's literally like, I mean, I am a huge advocate for therapy. I'm like, something's wrong in your life, go to therapy.
Yes.
But it's like, you talk about like your totem pole. Like, if that's all out of whack, like,
tell me the totem pole. What's that?
God, your marriage, your children, your career. And if that is out of whack, everything underneath it is going to be out of whack.
Wow.
So if your children are first, your marriage is going to suffer. And it's when I remember going through that, and I was like, this is so true. Like, if God's not at the top, how is my marriage going to be healthy and successful? how are my children then going to suffer from my marriage that's not healthy? How is my job going to then suffer from my family life that's not healthy? And it really stuck with me. When you see it, it's like, all right, it has to be in that order.
And you can point to times in your life when you know that order was out of order.
Yes.
And see the direct results of that. And sometimes it's good intentions. Like, I want to work hard to provide for my family. I mean, how many husbands or spouses get into that mode of like, okay, yeah, but dad was never around when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, but I was building a life for you. I was, but that totem pole, I never thought about it as a, is that a result of therapy?
Yes, it's a result of therapy, Look it up. It stuck with me. And you said with your career, you have a nonprofit. What is your passion of helping people?
So a big part of my career has been steeped in like the power of story. And as a songwriter, that's really what I'm about is I'm telling a story 1 3-minute song at a time. But I really went deeper in that several years ago where I did a whole record inspired by other people's stories. And I just gave people an opportunity on social media to share their story with me. And I received thousands of stories. And then I made a whole album called The Story of Your Life. And every song was inspired by somebody else's story. And it was, there's a song called Two Houses, inspired by a kid who wrote to me about, mom and dad breaking up and having to go back and forth. There's a story called Broken Girl that was inspired by I collected over 10,000 stories, and 1 out of every 5 dealt with the topic of sexual abuse. And I was like, man, I don't want to write a song about that, but these are telling me that I'm supposed to. And so I wrote a song like, you don't have to stay the broken girl, and just on and on, right?
That gives me chills.
Story of cancer survivors. And it was just such a powerful experience. But one thing I learned was like, everybody has a story, but not everybody's been told that their story matters. And so a big part of like the nonprofit work that we do is we want to help walk people through the journey of learning how to craft, share, and ultimately tell the story of their lives, a more meaningful story, and to find value in the parts that they think are valueless.
Yes.
Right? Like to find power in the parts that they think are too broken to be redeemed. And so we do that in a lot of different ways. I send out a weekly devotional inspired by my own quiet times. We have a bunch of videos of, it's not unlike the stories of I Am Second.
Yes.
Which I know we have some common friends.
Yes.
My friend Angie.
I love her.
So it's very much got the heartbeat of like, hey, what's your story? Your story matters. We do this really cool thing.
I would love to get that in the Bureau of Prisons.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That would be life-changing for
So
them.
one of the things our ministry does is we send books of mine into prisons at different times. And like anytime we get the opportunity, if the prison library will allow us to do it, to give all the inmates books. In fact, I went and performed at a prison in Pennsylvania, and we had shipped them. I think my book at the time was called The God Who Stays. And the inmates were coming up to me in the chapel, and they had their book and they had notes written out, and they were telling me about, hey, I love this story you shared. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have a real heart for like men and women who are incarcerated.
The Bureau of Prisons right now, under the new director and deputy director, they're amazing. And they're doing
Are you doing a lot of work with that?
So I'm doing a lot of work with them.
Wow.
They just allowed my dad to go into a prison and completely shake it all down.
Really?
Just tell them what was wrong with it, where
like how the conditions needed to improve.
Yeah, they let him access every single part and say, like, these men are being abused. This is what's happening. You need to correct it. And the deputy director actually was in prison. He was a big meth dealer.
And now he is
like
rehabilitated,
the deputy director, and he started up a business, was very successful in his personal life, and then the president appointed him as the deputy director.
That's incredible.
And to hear his story and transformation, and it's all about God and how God transformed my life. And so they're doing a lot of rehabilitation things and allowing things that have never happened before, allowing people to come in these prisons and teach classes. Or I personally think there needs to be a musical element. I mean, the amount of lives that have been changed just through music alone is huge.
One of my best friends in Nashville, her name was Cindy, and she was the first person who opened the doors for me to enter into the music industry. Like she was the first person going up and down Music Row saying, have you heard Matthew West? And like, I'll never forget, she took one of my songs to Rascal Flatts producers when I was just getting started. And she's like, you have to have Rascal Flatts record this. And they did.
They
and it was
did?
like my first big opportunity.
What was it?
It was a song called The Day Before You. It was on the record that had God Bless the Broken
It's so funny.
Road.
We're really good friends with Jay.
Are you?
Jay's like my dad's best friend. My dad was actually at the Opry last night watching Dylan perform.
Yeah,
Jay's
Jay and his son.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they're like a big part of like, that was a big moment in my life.
Wow.
But Cindy, what people didn't know about her is every Sunday she went to the women's prison in Tennessee.
Wow.
And led a Bible study. And the reason I tell you this story is because at 50 years old, Cindy lost her battle with cancer, but the pallbearers at her funeral were all the women who she had ministered to in that prison that had gotten out of prison and rehabilitated their lives, and they came to pay their respects. And so around every corner of her casket, I'll never forget it, like walking out of that church, there were all these women who had otherwise been cast aside by society and were behind bars. And this lady was leaving her house every Sunday. You knew that you couldn't get a hold of her on a Sunday night because that's where she was. And what a legacy to leave behind, like looking out for the least of these. Like that's pretty special. So that's great that you're doing that work.
We'll have to connect because I think there's so many awesome things. And now in the federal system, they're all getting tablets, and now we can control what goes on these tablets and how people receive information. And I think it would be life-changing.
Yeah, I mean, any chance to get like devotional content and some of the most special concerts I've ever done were not at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. They were behind bars.
That's amazing.
Seeing like there's a program called Men of Valor.
Yes.
Are familiar with that?
Men of Valor. Governor Abbott's huge behind that.
And I got to sing Inside the Walls. And I'll never forget one time I was at the Tennessee prison, and the chaplain came up to me. He's like, I got great news. The warden never allows this, but he's decided to allow you into the solitary confinement unit today. And he was so excited. And I was like, that's
great.
But I'm going to tell you what, like they walked me into this room, or I mean, not this room, but this division of the prison. And it was all I stood in front of was, there were staircases on each side, and there were 2 stories of solitary confinement units, and I couldn't see any faces. And they said, all right, sing. And I'm telling you, I stood there and I couldn't remember a single word to a single song I had written. I just froze. And so I started singing, and I was like, Lord, give me any words right now would be helpful, like anything. And I started singing Amazing Grace.
Wow.
And I started to see like faces appear in the little,
I would be
in the little
sobbing.
window. And it was like the most special moment that I've ever had. Like it rocked my world.
I say it's a story that I've told before, and I talk about going to visit my dad in prison for the first time and how nervous I was.
I've heard
didn't
you
know
talk
what to
about
expect. And I said, when I walked in that room, I just started crying because I never have felt the presence of Jesus more than I did in that room. Watching people reunite with their fathers or meet their kid for the first time or whatever it may be. And it's those situations that you don't realize how it changes the rest of your life.
Yeah, I remember in that solitary confinement unit being struck by the thought that like, this is where God goes. Like there is nowhere he won't light up. There's no darkness that he won't, you know what I mean? It just,
that is amazing.
And I was like, thank you, Lord, for loving me that much. And thank you for giving me this. And then that's the other thing is like not just being absolutely overwhelmed by God's grace and pursuit of us, but then saying, Lord, okay, break my heart for the things that break your heart. So like when you walked in that prison and you saw that, it wasn't enough for you just to go, oh, that was a moment that impacted me. It's like, no, now I'm going to work with the Department of the Bureau of Prisons.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to help the condition of inmates. Like, it's like, what do you do with that?
You have to.
To whom much is given.
It's wasted if you don't.
Yeah.
It's wasted if you don't. Wow. That is amazing that you did that. It
was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And now when I go on tour, depending on the city, like I did a festival in Michigan and they said, hey, would you come by the prison earlier in the day? Absolutely. Because I started to realize, so the festival that night, I get to sing in front of 15,000 people in Michigan. Yeah. But that day, I'm in the courtyard for 200 inmates, and it's like crappy sound system, and you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you're just, and it's a little scary. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's
really
more than a
don't.
little scary.
It is, because you just don't, unfortunately, there are people in there who are, you know, drug dealers and gang members and people who have committed murder. It's people like you who are willing to go in those places, and you're going in here and people are in solitary confinement. They needed to hear your message more than anything else. And I've seen people on death row who have given their life to Jesus, and they still die, but I believe they're going to heaven.
Yeah, I think we're going to be surprised. You know, our judgmental, our judgmental nature might tend to like decide for God who should and shouldn't be in heaven, but I think we'll be surprised.
That's amazing. I love how I came into this too with all these questions, and we have just like the conversation has just happened so naturally. One
other thing I was thinking of is there's this pastor named Alistair Begg, I think is his name. But he told this story. It inspired. I wrote a song called "The Man on the Middle Cross" for an artist named Rhett Walker. But he tells this story about like, he's like, imagine the moment that the thief on the cross shows up at heaven's gates, and they're all looking through their list, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" Like, and he's asking them all these questions, like, well, you know, and they go talk with St. Peter, and he builds this whole story up, and he's like, what does the thief on the cross say? And he just looks at him. He says, "I'm here because the man on the middle cross said I could come."
Wow.
Like, and that story has always wrecked me, is like, that's going to be all of our ticket into heaven.
Yeah, we're all going to be looking and be like, what are you doing here?
I have no record strong enough to justify my place in eternity, but the man on the middle cross said I could come. I was like,
that's amazing. Awesome. I love that. So what, on a lighter note, what fun projects do you have coming up?
Well, I just released a brand new book called Don't Stop Praying. And it's a 40-day devotional.
That's a message everyone needs to hear.
Especially in our world right now. But if if you've ever thought, man, I wish I had like a better prayer life, you know, and hopefully if you're not thinking that, no matter how deep you are into your relationship with the Lord, there's always a deeper level he's calling us to. So, and I'm super excited about that new book. So it just came out and it's available everywhere. And then I'm releasing a bunch of new music. So I just released a new song called Good. And it actually talks a lot about what we talked about just like the idea of working our way to heaven versus realizing the work has been done for us. So I'm releasing a lot of new music this year, and I'm going to be on tour. I'm on a tour right now called Winter Jam that is going to, I swear we're going to every cold city in America. Like
it's God testing you.
Honestly, these lights in your studio are just like giving me more vitamin D, I think, than I've had all winter. But
I love that.
But yeah, so lots of exciting things going on. But the new book and the new music, it's like, it's exciting.
And where can people purchase your book?
Everywhere. Most people buy books at Amazon.
Okay.
I think they said that like 60% of all books are on Amazon.
And do you have an audiobook?
Yes, I recorded it.
Your voice is so soothing.
Oh, come on.
So to like be able to sit and listen to it in an audiobook is a game changer.
Oh, you tell my wife that. Yes.
Right? She'll be like, what are you talking
She's
about?
Like, I can't get him to shut up. But yeah, the audiobook's available, or you can go to MatthewWest.com. And but it's I'm so proud of it. It's years ago, I was just writing songs, and my mom said to me, she's like, I feel like God's gifted you to write books too. And I laughed at her because I was like, I told her what my grade point, I was like, you remember my grade point average, right? And she's like, no, I think it's going to happen. So I've learned like never to doubt my mom.
Yeah, you know? Never doubt your mother. Yeah. Your mother knows.
Every time I finish a book, I'm like, she was right. She saw something in me when I couldn't.
That's amazing. All right. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to ask you one question.
Yeah.
If someone listening today feels like God is done with them, what would you want them to know?
Oh my gosh. The very first thing that popped into my head is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, not had. We need to pay attention to the power of the present tense in that scripture. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And just one verse later in 29:13, it says, and you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. And so to anybody who's out there thinking that God is done with you, pay attention to the present tense and that he still has plans for you. Even if you think you've screwed up every plan you've ever had or he's had for you, there's still right here in this moment, he's looking at you and going, no, I have a plan for your life. And if you'll seek me with all of your heart, I'll show you what it is.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for just spending the time with me. And I'm glad we could start off with a Masked Singer. And then,
yeah, I was going to ask you, can you send us out by singing a little In the Jungle?
You
or
know,
no? So we're not going to be recording a duet anytime soon. Is that it?
Unfortunately not. I wish.
But thank you for showing us what it looks like to be fearless.
Well,
that's why your listeners love you. They're like, hey, she ain't scared.
No,
so why
that
should
is
we?
one thing I am not.
Why should we?
Well, thank you so much.
You.
We'll link all of Matthew's info in this video, so you can find his social media, website, where to purchase his book, listen to music, all the good things.